As the cliche goes, April showers bring May flowers. But usually what comes after is the heat and dryness of summer. Hello again, Essay here. And before the hot weather of the holiday shows up, you should indulge in my new short story, The White Cat, a free exclusive on Substack. The links are down below in description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. While checking out my oddball thriller, remember that my Glitch series is still available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The links are down below in the description. While you'll find my peculiar story about a white pussy entertaining, that doesn't mean I'm out of ideas. I still have more stories coming down the pike, so as long as I don't run into any mishaps, you'll see those stories as well. Now let's get back to the video. Hello again, Essay here. Throughout human history, people tend to do things that are basically not pleasant, such as war, or sometimes murder. In fact, indeed, anyone who watches 6 o'clock news can see that happening every day of the week. But sometimes people, step up their game a little. They just don't just go out and just kill anybody. Usually go for the big prize, the big show. And indeed, there have been multiple instances of that occurring throughout human history. Yeah, for example, Julius Caesar. Yeah. And Abraham Lincoln as well. But of course, for every successful murder of a world leader, there have been multiple attempts where no brass ring. Yeah, for example, there was the woman's uprising that happened during the Ming Dynasty, where a bunch of women living in the emperor's palace got together to try to kill the emperor. Why? Don't rightly know. And then, of course, there was multiple plots against Elizabeth I. Oh, yeah. Including a really big one where some guy, I think Roberto, I think I'm mispronouncing his name. Yeah, he was some kind of Italian banker. Apparently he was conspiring with the Pope as well was a bunch of Scottish people to overthrow Elizabeth. Didn't succeed, but he made a go for it. And then, of course, there was an attempted assassination of Napoleon Bonaparte. Yeah. In fact, it happened, I think, not quite before he ended up becoming emperor. Yeah, I think it was called the Saint Natchez plot. Yeah. I think the plan was they were going to blow him up. And then, of course, there was that notorious one involving Guy Fawkes. You know, Guy Fawkes Day? Yeah. And you say, oh, that guy was yeah, it's a famous story. I remember reading about it as a kid. He was going to blow up the King of England in Westminster by putting a whole bunch of kegs of black powder. Didn't have like proper explosives back then. It was going to blow the place up. Didn't succeed, but hey, the guy made a go for it. And then we had some knuckleheads on our side of the fence. For example, there was this guy called Richard Lawrence, and you say, really? Who's that? According to the history books, he was the first person ever to attempt an assassination of an American president. Yeah, he tried to kill Andrew Jackson back in the 1830s. And then, of course, there was a few others throughout history. Indeed, I remember the one that happened back in the 1960s against Charles de Gaulle. In fact, anyone who's ever seen Day the Jackal probably heard about it. Now, of course, the movie version was not the same as what actually occurred. But yeah, in that instance, they had these radicals. They called themselves the Secret Army Organization, and they were kind of butthurt over de Gaulle pulling out of Algeria, and they tried to kill him. Didn't succeed, but they made a go for it. And then, of course, anyone who remembers the 70s remembered that Gerald Ford, you know, he avoided two separate assassination attempts. One by a Squeaky Fromm. And, of course, some of you are probably, from my generation, probably remember that one. Yeah. And I think old Squeaky is still around, too. I think. And then, of course, there was one against the Reagan by John Hinckley. And believe me, I wonder if old John, who is still alive, would have done that stunt if he knew that Jodie Foster was a lesbian. Just saying. But anyway, this video is not about past attempts to kill world leaders, per se. This is about the here and now. Now, of course, anyone who's been paying attention to the news probably heard what happened in Pennsylvania involving Trump. Now, I'm going to show you a snippet of a video by Paul Joseph Watson. Goofy guy, but hey, the guy, he brings the receipts. And he pointed out some really odd things about that attempted assassination of Trump. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Questions, so many questions. How was the shooter able to take up such an obvious vantage point? Why was there no oversight on the roof? Why didn't they notice the ladder placed next to the building? Elon Musk amplified the question of how such an obvious line of sight was not secured, suggesting it was either extreme incompetence or even deliberate. Musk called for the head of the Secret Service and the leader of the security detail to resign. Another Secret Service source called for mass firings or arrests. One eyewitness questioned the slow response, given that members of the crowd were desperately pointing out the shooter to the authorities.
We noticed the guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
Another eyewitness suggested the shooter was spotted before authorities even noticed him.
I was looking around myself and seen a guy on top of one of the buildings go in between one building to the next, and went and told the officer that he was up there. And when I went back to my spot, I heard that people could still see the person from where they were standing. So I checked that out, and I went back to tell the officer that if he came over there, he could see them.
Trump just carried on talking while the shooter was able to take aim.
And that's a little bit of he's going down!
Why is this female Secret Service agent bending down, exposing Trump's entire torso? And look, I know it was chaotic, but this is literally what they're trained for. Although it appears that in recent times, some of the Secret Service's resources have been directed to a different priority. Diversity hires.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now, of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates.
I mean, I know it's a scary situation, but again, this is literally their job, and she can barely even holster a gun. If only you knew how bad things really are. Steve Bannon previously warned this would happen, partly due to the Secret Service's DEI drive. And why did the head of the Secret Service dismiss requests for more security around Trump? How did it escalate to this? Well, what did you think was going to happen when you continually equate someone to Hitler? Hysterically assert that they're a threat to the existence of democracy itself.
He is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
And in the case of Biden, literally say it was time to put Trump in the bullseye. Comments that were reported publicly just 6 days ago. How the fuck can you say he's literally Hitler and democracy is on the line, but we wish him a speedy recovery and political violence is never acceptable? This was Nancy Pelosi just a few days ago.
And he must be stopped. He cannot be president.
Steve Scalise, Brett Kavanaugh, and now Donald Trump. What do you think's going to happen when the political class relentlessly pumps this kind of deranged rhetoric into their heads?
I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Too many see the protests as the problem. Please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Go to the Hill today. Get up in the face of some Congress people.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Running away from Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
When they go low, he kick.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
And their crazed shitlib viewers brazenly call for it. It didn't even need to be an inside job, a conspiracy. Because they've radicalized enough nut jobs to virtually guarantee it anyway. And they've got the nerve to claim, even after a literal assassination attempt against Trump, that the right wing is the real violent extremist threat.
And then the biggest threat that officials are telling me tonight is in the form of retaliatory violence.
Sam, you're taking me to exactly what I've been underscoring and is frankly very concerning in the rhetoric we are seeing at this hour already.
The total bile spewed all over Twitter was fully expected, and these disgusting reactions are rarely put into perspective when you understand that a Trump supporter was killed and at least 2 others seriously injured. But more importantly than the lunatics on social media, the same mainstream media that created the environment for this very kind of thing to occur didn't exactly cover themselves in glory with their response to it, with the incident immediately clearly being an assassination assassination attempt, blood smeared all over Trump's face. How did they report it? Just a few loud popping noises, just a few glass fragments. CNN said Trump just fell over. If CNN had been around in 1963, CNN's Jamie Gangel was more upset about Trump's moment of iconic defiance than the assassination attempt itself.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
Newsweek was more upset about Trump supporters being outraged. Sky News, nothing justifies an assassination bid, but Trump did play a part. Utterly despicable. A BBC host suggested Republicans shared some of the blame.
And yet, Mr. Farage, you're not suggesting surely that this is coming only from one side. If we concentrate on what's happened in America, do the Republicans also not have a responsibility in terms of creating a political environment? Many of Donald Trump's supporters have on many occasions used incredibly direct language here.
They demonized Tucker for warning that this exact thing would happen.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next? After, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life, that's not working. So, don't they have to kill you now?
While TikTok shitlibs are more upset about the shooter's bad accuracy.
I just found out about this shit. It just happened. I haven't even had a second to process. You're telling me somebody finally had the balls to bring a pew-pew, and he missed! We were a second away! We were a centimeter away from half of the problem being gone, and you missed! There was a white man attached to that trigger. I know it! We were a centimeter away! Oh!
You missed. What does this do for the presidential race? Well, if betting markets are any indication and they don't succeed in killing him between now and November, Trump landslide. Nick Ferris, Chief Investment Officer at Vantage Point Asset Management. From memory, Reagan went up 22 points in the polls after his assassination attempt. The election is likely to be a landslide. The bullet was literally this close. Trump turned his head at the last second, saving his life. Fate or divine intervention. God must have been watching down. In the end, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Really makes you think.
And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame.
Some people are saying America was 1 millimeter away from civil war. Some people are asking whether it wasn't just an assassination attempt, but an attempted coup. Not only did Donald Trump dodge a bullet, it appears the entire country and possibly the whole world did.
Okay, you saw that, right? Yeah, because I remember noticing that too, especially the part where multiple people actually saw the would-be killer climbing onto the roof of a building, which was not that far from where Trump was. I think they said it was like less than 200 yards. And if you saw in the video, they were actually sharpshooters working for the damn Secret Service on a nearby roof who obviously could see this guy. And they had their guns out already. And yet they actually wait until Trump gets shot at before they return fire. Excuse me, but if you are supposedly protecting someone and you see someone with a gun and they are approaching a person you're supposed to be protecting, how can I put this nicely? You shouldn't sit there and wait for them to take a pot shot at you, okay? And wait for it. I know some people are going to get annoyed over this. Despite what some people believe, Greedo did not shoot first. And you say, wait, what? Yeah. In the original Star Wars, Han Solo shot Greedo first. And of course, afterwards, old George Lucas, he did a little fancy dance with the video and made it look like Greedo shot first, when in fact he didn't. because I saw that film in the original movie theater, in the drive-in theater when it was brand new. And yeah, Han Solo shot first. Okay, are we clear? Right, let's move on. So yeah, I can understand why those damn sharpshooters sat there and waited until that clown started slinging bullets in Trump's direction. And wait for it, if you probably were paying attention to Watson's video, Trump, I mean, he almost died because they said that someone took a picture of him just as the bullet was whizzing past his head, and they said that if he had been facing the audience, he likely would have been killed, because they said what happened was that he was facing the audience. The clown was clearly going to put one right in the temple, but then he turned his head and the bullet whizzed past his ear. Well, not quite past his ear, it hit his ear, but still. But the guy wasn't aiming for his ear. You get it? And then, of course, Watson, as he sat there and complained, some of the Secret Service people probably shouldn't have been there. I mean, I got no problem with women trying to do a hard day's work. But if you're totally out of your depth, maybe you shouldn't be doing that job. And while those big burly men, you know, in their suits and their earpieces were handling Trump okay, well enough, it seemed those women were just kind of standing around with their hands on their guns, not sure what to do next. Yep. But of course, as you saw in Watson's video, most of his vitriol was focused on the news media. And let's not pretend, okay, these people are not journalists. They're propagandists who work for the DNC. And some of them don't even work for the DNC. They're just flat out, you know, anarchists and Marxists, okay? They were clearly rooting for the killer. Or should say, okay, let me walk that back a little. Would-be assassin, because he actually did, I think what, he shot at Trump but hit like, I think 3 other people and killed one of them. That wasn't Trump. Okay, okay, I concede that. They were clearly rooting for the killer. Now at this point you say, what the hell's wrong with these people? Yeah, that's a very good question. Because believe me, when you look at the history of assassinations before, in the past, occasionally you would have people rooting for the assassins. I mean, for example, Vladimir, yeah, that guy, Putin. I mean, he's had multiple attempts on his life. I mean, too many to count. And so far, no one has succeeded. And let's not pretend there's more than a few people on our side of the fence who are saying, yeah, get the bastard. But this is different. Trump's supposed to be on our side. And we got people on our side of the fence rooting for the killer? I mean, like, what the devil? What's wrong with these people? The mommies dropped them on their head when they were little? But yeah, that sort of thing has happened before throughout history. In fact, it happened back during the time of, it was Henry the Seventh. And you say, wait, who? Yeah, you're familiar with Henry the Eighth. Yeah, well, Henry the Seventh was his older brother. But anyway, the way this story, if I remember correctly, this guy named Francis Lowe was trying to kill old King Henry. And you say, what's this had to do with with the price of tea in China? I'm getting that part. Okay, are you ready? And where this guy Lowe tried to kill the king, failed, but wait for it. This was right in the aftermath of the War of the Roses. And anyone who's probably familiar with Richard III, probably familiar with War of the Roses. Yeah, Richard III lost that war. and lost his head. But anyway, in the aftermath of that war, there were still plenty of people in England who were butthurt how that war turned out. Okay? And old King Henry, he was on the winning side. Therefore, when this guy Francis Lowell tried to kill him and failed, half of the country was kind of happy. Not so much happy that Lowell failed, but happy that at least he made an attempt. Can you spell a divided country? Yeah, precisely. Just like right now in this country. Now, of course, are we going to end up in a War Rosa scenario here? Well, maybe. But it won't be a bunch of noblemen fighting each other over a throne. Nope. Because the fact that you had multiple people who supposedly on TV, people who allegedly are supposed to be journalists, rooting for the killer. I mean, no, we can't allow that. I mean, I'm pretty certain that when Kennedy got killed, there weren't too many people who were Republicans rooting for Lee Harvey Oswald, okay? I'm pretty certain there wasn't. But the fact that you have so many people with a D next to their name, who actually were rooting for the killer, no. We can't tolerate that. And wait for it, you ready? Mark Dice, in a video he put out not too long ago, he said the same thing. He said that if Trump had been killed, you would not want to see this country the day after. Nope. And you know what? He's probably spot on. Before you can say the word Civil War, and no, don't take a drink because it's not Tim Pool saying it, okay? So put down the damn Mamashevitz, okay? Just put it down. But yeah, I think that half the country would be more than a little butthurt if old Trump had ended up in a box or a body bag. Especially if it turned out that it was the Democrats and their leftist allies who did it. Nope. So yeah, for now, both Trump and this country has dodged a bullet. The only question now is it going to be the last bullet? You can only hope. Well, that's all I have to say about these stupid people rooting for a would-be assassin of what will hope be the next president of the United States. That's my opinion.